Well, for a few of you, Will may need an introduction, but probably not after that. Story for all ages, but he's been with us many times over years, and we are so glad that he was able to fit us into this. As you can imagine, busy schedule has come out here to enlighten us once again. So, Will Hornyak, storyteller, bard, excellent, please. Thank you.
Well, good morning, all.
Good morning.
It's really, really nice to be back. I love coming out here. I love this community and this very special place. And maybe I'll do that. Yeah, that might work. I better be careful. So the subject today is transformation, and I want to begin with a disclaimer. My wife will tell you I would be the last person that should be talking about transformation and the art of transformation. For those of you familiar with the zodiac, I'm a Taurus, right? Which is a bull, which is fixed earth in the zodiac sign, which is all about stability, routine, even rut, right? So I come to transformation not easily, but I find that stories are always about transformation and change. And so to me, they're natural allies when it comes time to transform and to change. And so what I'd like to do is tell a couple of stories today, which have at their root transformation. And the first one comes from the Middle East, very old storytelling tradition in Persia. And the character is known as the Mullah Nasruddin. And the Mullah Nasruddin is kind of the wise, holy fool of the Middle East. He's a bit like the coyote character in native mythology. You know, coyote's a trickster. Coyote's always getting into predicaments. Coyote teaches us what not to do, right? By always making horrendous mistakes. He's always hungry, he's always horny, he's always filled with ego, he's always tripping all over himself, right? The Mullah Nasruddin is kind of like that too. Well, one day, the Mullah Nasruddin, he was in front of his house. He was searching for something. He was looking high and low all around. And a neighbor noticed this. And he came over and said, Mullah, have you lost something? And Mullah said, yes, I lost my gold ring, my beautiful gold ring. Oh, and the neighbor said, well, I will help you, Mullah. And they were looking around, and pretty soon another neighbor came by, and passers-by stopped by, and pretty soon dozens of people were searching with the Mullah for this lost gold ring. And finally someone said, Mullah, are you certain you lost the gold ring out here? And the Mullah said, oh, no. I lost the gold ring inside my house. It probably fell through the cracks of the floor into the basement there. They said, well, Mullah, if you lost the ring inside the house, why would we be looking for it outside of the house? And the Mullah said, well, you know, the light is so much nicer here. Ridiculous story, right? Who would ever do that? But I would say that I do it all the time, right? Because the basement is a good metaphor for all the old stuff, the stuff we don't want to deal with, the stuff that's been pushed through the crack. It's kind of a metaphor for the subconscious, you know? It's where all those feelings are, all those emotions are, all that baggage is that we don't want to look into. And that often stops us from transforming. Now, I know something about basements right now because I've been in mine for 2 weeks straight. I had a leak, a crack in a drain pipe, which is beneath my slab in my basement, beneath the concrete. So I've been getting to know my basement very, very, very well. And it's the last place I want to be. It's summertime, I want to be outside where the light is beautiful. But here's what's happened. I've had to move all kinds of stuff around. While I'm down there, I cleaned everything, I painted everything, I did some rewiring, right? We went through all kinds of stuff. My wife and I have had several arguments over what stuff is hers, what stuff is mine, you know. And as a result, we've transformed the basement. I feel very different now about my basement, about my house in general. But a lot of times it's not until catastrophe or problems or calamities happen that we see the need for transformation. Well, here's a different story about transformation and also why it's difficult. Because if it wasn't difficult, we would do it more readily, wouldn't we? You know? I don't know about you, but I fear transformation, in part because I know something will be different. I will lose something. I might gain something good, but I can't see that at the beginning. I don't think the caterpillar really knows it's going to be a butterfly at first. Right? But it seems that nature, one of the great teachers, shows us that for transformation to happen, we need to go into a place of stillness, into a place of darkness, into a place of uncertainty. And that's terrifying. Well, long ago in Ireland, there was a peddler. Very simple man, but a very good-hearted man. He was from a little village called Ballahadreen. You want to try that? Ballahadreen. It's a town in County Roscommon. And every day the peddler, he would walk the rocky roads of County Roscommon. And whenever he came to a square or a fair, a marketplace, a crossroads, he would spread out his wares. And he would call out, pots and pans for sale, knives, needles, ribbons, bows, come and buy them here. And you know how it is, oftentimes a boy, a 10-year-old boy would come up and he would look at something the peddler had for sale and he would pick up something like a pocket knife and say, peddler, how much for this? Well, the peddler of Ballahadreen, he knew right away if that boy could afford the knife or not. He often peddled them on very poor people. And if he believed the boy probably couldn't afford the knife, he would often say something like, lad, that knife you got in your hand there, that one there. For some reason, that knife has been doing nothing but weighing me down for months. I've been looking for someone to take it off my hands, just to lighten my load a little bit. Why would you be willing to do that for me? And the boy would say, I would, sir, I would. And he'd take this little knife and he'd run off and he'd be so happy. And the peddler of Ballahadreen would take a bit of that happiness for his payment. Fact of the matter was, though, he gave away a lot more than he sold. And who, of course, was noticing this? The townspeople. Now, can you be the townspeople for a moment? It's really easy. Fold your arms, shake your heads, and scowl. And then you say this, right? The peddler's a fool.
The peddler's a fool.
Gives away more than he sells.
Gives away more than he sells.
The fool and his money are soon parted.
The fool and his money are soon parted.
And of course, the townspeople, well, they were right, actually. The peddler, he gave away much. And then he would make his way home. And he was often be followed by the stray dogs. And most people would shoo dogs like that away. But the peddler would often sit, reach into his sack, pull out some crusty old bread, some moldy cheese, and he'd feed the dogs. And then he'd make his way home. He lived near the crossroads, near Ballahadreen. And he had a little mud and wattle hut, the cheapest kind. And outside, though, in his garden, he had a beautiful, beautiful cherry tree. In fact, everybody in County Roscommon knew his cherries that were bigger, sweeter, darker, more beautiful, luscious than any cherry in the whole county. Everybody knew that, and the blackbirds knew it better than anyone. They come swooping out of the sky. They'd eat up half the cherries. Rabbits would come out of the copses and the fields, and they'd chew upon his potatoes and his carrots. And the neighbors, can you be the neighbors? Right? They'd shake their heads, and they'd say, peddler, shoo 'em away.
Peddler, shoo 'em away.
They're robbing you blind.
They're robbing you blind.
Ah, the peddler said, there's nothing robbing me. There's nothing that sings as sweetly as a bird when it's in that tree of mine. And the rabbits, they're good company. I get lonely sometimes, Well, the neighbors, of course, were right, because they realized that pretty soon the peddler would have nothing to peddle and nothing to eat, and he'd go to bed cold and hungry. And one winter, the snow came early and it stayed late. And finally, the peddler had given away most he had. And every night, he went to bed hungry, cold, and hungry. And if you've ever done that, you know that you're bound to have an amazing dream, right? And the peddler, he had this dream. Standing right at the foot of his bed was St. Patrick himself. I mean, this is Ireland. Who else would it be? And St. Patrick, he said, peddler, man, get up, walk to Dublin. Walk to Dublin, stand on the Liffey Bridge, and you'll see what you're to see, and you'll hear what you're to hear. And the peddler, fool that he was, he listened to this dream. He put on this little thin rag of a coat he had. He made his way out the door, and it was so cold, he just couldn't do it. And he turned back and he went to sleep. But the next night, again, St. Patrick appeared and said, peddler, I'm telling you now, get yourself up, walk to Dublin, stand on the Liffey Bridge, and you'll see what you're to see. You'll hear what you're to hear. Man, get up now. Now go. And that night he did get up, and he made his way out the door, and he got onto the road, and he was just so hungry. He just didn't have the strength, you know. And he went back to sleep. Ever done this when you have something important to do, you just go back to sleep? I do it all the time. Well, the third night, St. Patrick said, look, I'm telling you, I'm not going to be telling you again, Pedro. You've got to get up. Make your way to Dublin. Find the Liffey Bridge. Stand there. You'll hear what you're to hear. You'll see what you're to see. Now, man, get up and go. And he got up and he walked out the door, but he was so cold. He was so hungry. But he just did it anyway. He put one foot in front of the other and walked and walked and walked. It took him 3 days to walk all the way to Dublin. But he found his way to the Liffey Bridge. He'd never been to the city before. And just as the sun was rising, he found the bridge and he stood there. He was so excited. He could see people now stirring to life. You know, they were coming across the bridge, going to their shops, and coming across this way, going to the markets, and going this way and that way and this way. And all day long he listened and he waited and waited and listened and listened and waited and watched and waited and listened and watched and waited. No one said one word to him. And for the first time in his life, he was truly afraid, because the peddler of Ballahidreen didn't have the strength to walk all the way back home. He only had the strength, in fact, to lay down in an alley that was sheltered from the breeze. And there, just as soon as his head touched the cobbled stones, he was asleep. And that was to be the final sleep the peddler ever slept, had not someone come around the corner. It's called a pregnant pause. It's also known as a cheap storytelling trick. It was the innkeeper who came around the corner. Nicely dressed man, you know. Now, it was the innkeeper who had an inn at the foot of the Liffey Bridge. The innkeeper had been watching this peddler. He didn't know he was a peddler, just watching this man on the bridge all day long. And the innkeeper said, well, now that's where you've come to. I wondered what happened to you, man. I've been watching you all day long, standing in a stiff breeze on the Liffey Bridge. You weren't peddling anything. You weren't begging for anything. What on earth were you doing there, man? How is it with you? But the peddler, he was so weak, he couldn't even talk, you know. And the innkeeper said, you come with me. And he took him to his inn, and he sat him down, and he gave him a pint of ale, and he gave him a bowl of stew, and the peddler ate the best meal he'd eaten in months. And when he finished, the innkeeper said, now tell me, man, how is it with you? What were you doing standing on the Liffey Bridge all day long? And the peddler said, well, I had this dream, you see. And in a dream, a voice told me to find the Liffey Bridge. And without even listening to the rest of the story, the innkeeper just laughed, and he said, man, you're daft. You're nothing but a fool. Everybody has dreams, but you don't go running off when somebody a dream tells you to. Now look, man, I don't know who you are, I don't know where you've come from, but I know this much. You've got to get home and care for yourself, you know. I've saved your life. I can't be doing that again. You've got to take care of yourself. The peddler knew he was right. He thanked the innkeeper for saving his life. And just as he was making out his way out the door, the innkeeper said, but wait a minute, man, wait a minute. You know, that dream that you had, it reminded me of the dream that I had years and years ago. It was in the dead of winter. And it was St. Patrick himself who spoke to me in my dream, and he said, innkeeper, he said, walk to the town of Ballahidreen, wherever on earth that is, and you'll find a crossroads there and a cherry tree at the crossroads, and if you were to dig beneath it, you'd unearth a great chest of gold. Now where would I be? An innkeeper, a man of means, if I listened to nonsense like that? Well, the peddler said, you know, man, I don't rightly know where you'd be. But he said to himself, I damn well know where I should be. Didn't the peddler of Ballahidreen make his way home in 2 days and 2 nights? Didn't he find his own spade leaning against his own hut? Oh, he did. And he took it. And right beneath his own spreading cherry tree, right in his own front yard, he dug and he dug, and he hit something. And he brushed away the earth, and he unearthed a great wooden chest. And when he opened it, it brimmed full of Spanish gold doubloons. And they say that all the good and all the fine, all the great and the grand things the peddler of Ballahidreen did for this world with that gold, that is the stuff of 100 stories. And all of them, I can assure you, just like this one, finally do come to an end. And that is the end of the story, The Peddler of Ballahadreen, County Roscommon, Ireland. So just a couple of my thoughts about that particular story and how it relates to transformation and the difficulty of transformation. The peddler needs to transform, something needs to change, you know. He's about to die. He has no food, he's cold, he's hungry. And you notice that the dream doesn't come until he's empty, right? You know, in many cultures, if you want to have a vision, if you want to have a dream, what do you do first? You fast, right? You give up something. So there's no transformation without giving something up. There's no rebirth without some type of death or some type of change. So he's totally empty, right? He's in an altered state, you might say. And when he is, we're much more open to listening to dreams or voices within us telling us what to do. So the dream comes because he's open to it, he's empty. And then, of course, when it comes, does he obey it right away? No. Because why? It's difficult. It's not comfortable. It's cold. He's hungry. It's 3 days' walk. He's never been to Dublin. He doesn't know what it's going to look like. And so he's afraid. That's another important thing about true transformation. Fear has to become our ally. Fear is always going to be with us during any time of change or transformation. And part of the key is how to live with fear and how to continue on with deep trust in ourselves anyway. The second thing, too, is that he had to go to a new place. He'd never been to Dublin. And this is often important in transformation, too. We can't just stay where we are. He has to go to a different place geographically, but that also could mean we need to inhabit a different place emotionally, maybe a different place psychologically, maybe we have to take a different intellectual perspective on something. When I was 23, I got a grant to work as a newspaper reporter in Peru. I was gone for 1.5 years. I didn't even speak Spanish before I left. I got there, I knew no one, I was terrified. Within 3 months, I was completely depressed. But after about 6 months, my life just broke open and it completely changed, completely transformed. I don't think that would have happened if I stayed in my own country, in my own culture, because I'm a people pleaser, right? I do everything I can to make sure other people are taken care of. That's how I would get my worth. Well, it took me getting out of the country, being completely alone, where I wasn't beholden to a lot of other people's opinions and perspectives. So sometimes taking ourselves to a different place, like the peddler did, is important in transformation. And a third thing that I'll mention is that, you know how the innkeeper is the one that gives them the news in the end? That's another thing about transformation. Oftentimes the best information comes from the most unlikely of sources. You know? And this is in part the value of fairy tales, myths, and folk tales. You know? Oftentimes it's not at the castle with the wise person. You have to get to the crossroads, right? And talk to the dwarf at the crossroads. Right? You have to talk to the crazy person, right, who says, here, this is a stick, but it'll turn into a ship if you get to the ocean. I don't know about you, but when I was raised in grade school, I wasn't told, go to the crossroads and talk to the weird people. But in fairy tales, folk tales, and myths, they always say, this is where the information is. It's not in the castle. You've already known that place. It's not in what's familiar. It's what is unfamiliar. That is one of the essences of the art of transformation, is going to the unfamiliar. So, why is this important? Why does it relate to us today in these times? Well, I don't know about you, but I think we are in times of need of great transformation, collectively. We notice that there's upheaval, there's environmental degradation, there's cultural upheaval, politics is an incredible mess. How do we transform the collective? And I think it can only happen when enough individuals are willing to transform individually. And so that's why I think the art of transformation is essential these days, and how stories can be an important part of it. So there's an old saying from Angela Zarian, a cultural anthropologist: every day sing, every day dance, every day tell stories, and every day be silent. Those are the healing salves of the human spirit, but they're also the gateways, the thresholds to the imagination, to once upon a time. A great teacher of mine, Malidoma Somé from Africa, once said, you cannot change this world if you always stay in this world. You have to get across the threshold into the realm of imagination. Why? Because we think of things differently, we consider things differently when we're in that place. And from the realm of imagination, we bring back fresh ideas, fresh insights, new vitality into the waking world. So that's another reason why I think the arts, storytelling, silence, whatever takes you to that place are essential these days. So I want to finish with a poem, and then I'll open it up for discussion. You still awake out there? Good deal. Okay, great. By the way, there's an old saying in Ireland that there's no such thing as a story without an ear to hear it and a heart to hold it. Right? And I want to thank you for being those ears and these hearts today, for helping me bring some of these stories to life. You're a wonderful audience to be able to speak to, so thank you. Thank you. Every year I go to an event put on by Michael Mead, a great mythologist and storyteller. It's in Mendocino, California. So I drive down there and I camp in the redwoods on the way down and on the way back. And I'm always inspired walking around the redwood groves. And this poem came out of that. It's called What the Redwoods Told Me. What the Redwoods Told Me. Grow tall, but first sink your roots down into dark, succulent soils. Cast them out wide. Twine together with those around you. Then you won't fear the brunt of fierce storms. Then the great winds will make music in your boughs and branches and inspire a song from your voice never before heard. Next, clothe yourself in garments freely given, common robes of rain, cloaks of mist and dew, so that tears will befriend you. Silence and stillness will be your medicine, and your presence will speak a language understood by all. And then become truly noble. Shelter all manner of small, strange, delicate, chirping, buzzing, crawling, clawed, and winged life. And finally, yield your grandeur, once great against the vast, bright, and star-sown sky, to become sweet soil, mulch for sapling and sprout, a companion to earthworm and toadstool, draped in fern and moss, over whom you once towered. Neither run from nor rue that day, but lay yourself down willingly into the arms of that beloved who has been waiting for you from the moment of your first breath. It's called What the Redwoods Told Me. Thank you. Oh, here it is. There you go. So we'll think upon, have a little meditation for a minute or two, and then we'll open it for any comments.